want our foreign key to reference a particular attribute, we would have to specify the attribute within parentheses. Does that make sense, Cameron? And we can actually reference other attributes as well. Okay. Guys, does that make sense? Okie dokie. Okay, let's see what else. Duration. Okay. Okay. So in our particular example here, note that we do not specify what the other candidate keys are or what the foreign keys are when we are defining the schema of a particular table, right? In this particular scenario, it would be best if account number is the primary key for the depositor table, or if both of them together are defined as the primary key or basically unique, that unique constraint. But if we do not say that, remember the difference between SQL and relational algebra. If this table is defined in relational algebra, then it cannot have duplicate entries because sets, right? However, in SQL, this can be a multi-set, so it's better to just define both of those attributes together as a primary key. And if we are trying to define multiple attributes as primary keys, we would always define that after the table attribute names, right? Okay. Okay, so another thing about foreign keys, we also need to remember that referential integrity needs to be maintained. So this is something that you would be, already came across maybe in the homework 3, but essentially even homework 2, I believe. So essentially removing a particular entry from a referencing relation, reference relation requires some things to be taken care of. So for example, let's say that we need to remove the customer Jones from our bank. We hate him, we need to remove the customer Jones from that account. And this customer Jones appears in the customer table, depositor table, and the borrower table, right? So customer exists in the customer table, customer name, and info about customer. Depositor table has customers name or ID and the amount, blah. Borrower table is how much the customer has taken some loan of, right? Blah, blah. So in this particular scenario, the depositor table references the customer table. The borrower table also references the customer table. So when without looking at this part here, I cannot hide this, but essentially, if we want to remove the customer Jones, can we remove, it says, so can we remove the customer Jones directly from the customer table? Yes or no? Or would we need to remove the customer Jones from depositor and borrower first because they reference customer, and then we are able to remove the customer from customer table? We need to basically remove Jones from the depositor and borrower first, and then be able to remove Jones from the customer, right? So can we, do we remember, so that was referential integrity, but do we remember maybe a constraint or maybe a rule that would allow us to remove Jones from the customer table without us worrying about which tables to remove them from? Cascade. Guys, is Cameron correct? Cascading, right? So if we do not have that cascade constraint on our table definition, we need to first remove them from depositor and borrower first, and then from customer. And also remove the, remember that on delete cascade has some variations, right? Do we completely remove the entry, or do we add null values there for the account IDs? So there are different versions of those things as well, right? But in general, yes, on delete cascade, right? Okay. Okay, so let's move to relational algebra operations. We talked about the fundamental operations, that is select, project, union, difference, Cartesian product, and rename operations. All of these operations work on either one or two relations at a time. Let's see. We also had other operations such as intersection, natural join. We also introduced another, if you remember, we introduced another generic join type, that was the theta join. And we have the division operation. So the exam usually has some question on the division operation as well. Remember, if we talked about the division operation in terms of puzzles and who played what puzzle, and get all the puzzles that are done with all. So you get me users that have completed all puzzles, right? And the assignment operation, we had the project operation and the grouping and aggregation operations. And now comes the scary bit, that is left, right, and full outer joins, right? So I have been getting a lot of questions about joins. So joins are pretty simple, right? So let's always but remember by heart this particular slide. So even during your interview questions or whatever, remember this slide, because sometimes they do ask you about join operations. Most of the times they do ask you about join operations. So always remember this particular set of this slide should work basically. So let's say that we have two tables, right? R has attribute 1 and attribute 2 with the values A, B, C, R1, R2, R3. And S has again attribute 1 and attribute 3 that has B, C, D, and S2, S3, and S4. So if we perform join operations, there are basically 5 different ways. The first one would be your generic cross product, right? So the cross product is essentially your from queries, right? So basically we have, let's say that from customer C, comma, branch B, right? Whatever. That is your cross product. Whenever we have a comma, that is your cross product, right? So what does cross product do? It is essentially a multiplication and all possible combination across all possible values, right? Everyone remembers that. So we would get, if we perform a cross product of R and S, we would get A R1, B S2, A R1, C S3, A R1, D S4. That is the first set of rows. Then B R2, B S2, B R2, C S3, B R2, D S4, right? And I'm talking about the Cartesian product here. Again, finally, CR3, BS2, CR3, CS3, and so on, right? So that is a Cartesian product. Now comes the natural join. So a natural join is defined as this bow tie operation. So remember, a join operation essentially unites or creates attributes for all of the attributes that we have across all tables. So if we perform a natural join would first find all the common attributes that we have. In this scenario, attribute 1 is common across both of those tables. So attribute 1 is being used or is going to be used for the natural join operation. And now, if it's a natural join, that means that for all entries for attribute 1, which have a corresponding entry in the S table as well, only those entries will survive. Everything else gets removed. So we see that for B, we have R2, and for B here, we have S2. For C, we have R3, and for C here, we have S3. And those are the rows that will be there in your natural join. A will not be there because S does not have an entry for A. D will not be there because R is not here in the R table. Sorry, D is not there in the R table, right? Does that make sense? The natural join bit? Okay, so then we have natural left join. So these are the 3 set of joins: left join, right join, and full join. These are the 3 joins which say that what to do when we have missing values. So let's say that even if A has missing values in S, R has missing values in S, we still want all values of R, right? We want to keep all values of R. R gets a preference. So that is what that means is A, B, C will always be there. So A, B, C becomes a left outer join. So essentially A, B, C stays. The corresponding attribute 2 values come up as well. So R1, R2, and R3. Now for attribute 3, we have S2 and S3 for B and C. But there is no corresponding value for A, right? So we get a null there. Right? That is a left outer join when we want to keep all the values that are in R in our resultant join values. That was not the case when we performed a natural join. This is for a left join, right? Okay. So basically, we perform a left join when we want to preserve all the values for the left hand table, right? So if you remember that, get me all customers that have a loan, right? Or the number of loans that each customer has. So just imagine a query where we say, and let me ask you this question to make sure you understand this thing. So let's say that I have the something to write number of loans for each customer. Right, we can actually group by the customer name and then just count the number of rows, right? So if we perform a natural join on the customer and the loan table, would we know about customers without any loans? So if we perform a natural join on the customer and the loan table, let's say, would we know about the customers that do not have any loans? Let's rewrite this thing while you guys think about it. So let's say customer left out join. Would we get any, no, not left out join, my bad. Natural join low. So in this particular case, if we perform this join operation, would we know about customers that do not have any loans? Yes or no? No. Why, Alex? They won't be in the new table, exactly, because for that customer, there is no entry in the loan table. So a natural join just removes that attribute, right? Exactly. However, so the best thing, if we actually want to know about customers without any loans, should we have a customer natural join, or what type of join should it be? Left natural join, exactly. What about, and for the next one, I want someone other than Alex to answer. What about the same question where we actually want to have zero customers with zero loans to come up? But what if we had loan here and customer here? Again, the same thing, but just we have switched the tables. So would this join operation here get me customers without any loans? And not Alex, anyone else? Would this get me customers without loans? Yes, no,